Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. Welcome to Bud Mouse. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting history. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Okay. Are you ready? We've got 2 shout-outs before Christmas. This is one of them. Are you ready? Here we go. Shout-out time. Here's a shout-out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout-out is for our friend, Coach Mary Ma. She's fairly new to our channel and a wonderful supporter. Her channel says, your life coach Mary Ma is here. Help you reinvent yourself, reset your life using 5-step process to rebuild confidence and improve your net worth. I need all the help I can get. Not so much in confidence, but net worth is always something that I am building. We're reshaping our world and we're building ourselves up in lots of ways. So it's good to have a life coach to help us reset and maybe meet some of those goals that we haven't been able to reach over the last few years. So check Mary out, like, share, comment, and let her know we sent you by. Have a good day, and Merry Christmas.
Go! Alright, this is the bearded historian, Joe, for the Bud Files. Now, because it's December, it's late in December, and for those of us who stare at a calendar way too much, there's a lot of holidays to work with in 1 month. I mean, you got Christmas, you got Hanukkah, you got the people who practice working with the Yule logs, and then you got the great juggle between, Jesus and St. Nick. So, we're going to break this down just a little bit with some history and make your own conclusions, Go into it, with everything with an open mind. That's one of the best things you can do. Now, one of the first things that we look at is the origins for Christmas, and this is kind of interesting because you can blame the Romans, like we always do. There's also the pagans that we get to associate with this issue. The Romans actually celebrated 2 holidays in the month of December. The first was Saturnalia, which was a 2-week festival honoring their god of agriculture, Saturn. December the 25th, they also celebrated the birth of Mithra, which sounds like a Godzilla demon, their sun god. Both celebrations were raucous, drunken parties. Also in December, it was the darkest day of the year falls. The pagan cultures would light bonfires and candles to keep the darkness at bay. The Romans would incorporate this tradition into their own celebrations. I also learned that Romans had a habit of whenever they would, occupy a place and there was a different religion, they would drag that religion into Rome and, add it to their own already existing, deities. Well, as Christianity started to spread across Europe, the Christian clergy were not able to curb the pagan customs and celebrations, so since no one really knew what Jesus' date of birth was, they adapted the pagan ritual into a celebration of his birthday. Christmas trees, part of the event, were already part of the solstice celebrations that the pagans were celebrating. Their cultures would decorate the homes with greens in anticipation of spring to come. Evergreen trees remained green during the coldest and darkest days, so they were thought to hold special powers. The Romans also decorated their temples with fir trees during Saturnalia and decorated them with bits of metal. There were even records that the Greeks were decorating trees in honor to their gods. Interestingly, the first trees in the pagan homes were hung from the ceiling upside down.
Woo! I've seen some of those.
Yeah. Now, the tree tradition that we are accustomed to today actually hails from Northern Europe, where the Germanic pagan tribes decorated evergreen trees in worship of the god Woden with candles and dried fruit. This tradition was incorporated into the Christian faith in Germany during the 1500s. They decorated trees in their homes with sweets, lights, and toys. Now, Santa Claus, this one is kind of fun because, you think of St. Nick, and he's been around the planet. Tradition is in the Christian roots rather than the pagan ones. Born in southern Turkey around 280, he was a bishop in the early Christian church and suffered persecution and imprisonment for his faith. Coming from a wealthy family, he was renowned for his generosity towards the poor and disenfranchised. Legends surrounding him abound, but the most famous is how he saved 3 daughters from being sold into slavery.
I don't remember that story, because I don't do a lot of history, but I don't remember that story.
Yeah. There was no dowry to entice a man to marry them, so it was the father's last resort. St. Nicholas was said to have tossed gold through an open window into the home, thus saving them from their fate. Legend has it was that the gold landed in a sock drying by the fire, so children started hanging stockings by their fires in hopes that St. Nicholas would toss gifts into them. In honor of his passing, December 6th was the declared St. Nicholas Day. As time went on, the European culture adapted versions of St. Nicholas. In Swiss and German cultures, Christkind, or Christkindl, Christ Child, accompanied St. Nicholas to deliver presents to well-behaved children. Hultelman was a happy elf delivering gifts via sleigh drawn by goats in Sweden, and there was Father Christmas in England and Père Noël in France. In the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Lorraine, France, and parts of Germany, he was known as Sinterklaas. Klaus, for the record, is a shortened version of the name Nicholas. And this is where the Americanized Santa Claus comes from. Now, interestingly enough, he was not always welcome in America.
What?
Kind of a mixed bag. The Puritans. Ooh.
Silly people.
The people are so stuck up. Their beliefs, they banned Christmas because of its pagan origins and the raucous nature of the celebrations. Other immigrants arriving from Europe continued the customs of their homelands. The Dutch brought Sinterklaas with them to New York in the 1600s. Germans brought their tree traditions in the 1700s, and each celebrated their own way within their own communities. So, in its own way, it was kind of like, well, when we were talking about the English language, English is, I'll say it, a mutt language. We got pieces of all over the world mixed into the language here in America, and so that's where the Santa Claus started to build. Now, it wasn't until the 1800s that the American Christmas began to take shape. Washington Irving wrote a series of stories in a wealthy English landowner who invites his workers to have dinner with him. Irving liked the idea of people of all backgrounds and social status coming together for a festive holiday, so he told a tale that reminisced about an old Christmas tradition that had been lost but restored by this wealthy landowner. Through Irving's story, the idea began to take hold in the hearts of the American public. In 1822, Clement Clark Moore wrote an account of a visit from St. Nicholas for his daughters. It's now famously known as The Night Before Christmas. In it, the modern idea of St. Claus as a jolly man flying through the sky on a sleigh took hold. Later in 1881, the artist Thomas Nast was hired to draw a depiction of Santa for Coca-Cola. And he created a rotund Santa with a wife named Mrs. Claus, surrounded by worker elves. After this, the image of Santa was a cheerful, fat, white-bearded man in a red suit that became embedded in the American culture. Now, after the Civil War, the country was looking for ways to look past differences and become united as a country. In 1870, President Ulysses S. Grant declared it a federal holiday. And while Christmas traditions have adapted with time, I think Washington Irving's desire for unity in celebration lives on. It became a time of year when we wish others well, donate to our favorite charities, and give presents with a joyful spirit. Now, on to the next part of this. We were talking a little bit, my daughter, Angel, made the recommendation to talk about the Yule log tradition. And this is a burning of a special log in a fireplace for luck and fortune. It's been a holiday tradition long before the arrival of Christianity in Europe. And as most holiday traditions, the origins of Yule logs are believed to have stemmed from Germanic or Scandinavian paganism. The tradition of burning a Yule log began as an early winter solstice ritual, although the exact date of this tradition started has been lost to us. The earliest references of the Yule log tradition appear in the 17th century German texts, though it is widely believed to have been practiced for centuries prior. Now, Christians later adopted and changed the Yule log. By Christianity, the lighting of the Yule log was used to symbolize the birth of Jesus by some, while others claimed it symbolizes Jesus' triumph over sin. Today, the burning of the Yule log is seen more of a secular holiday tradition, though it is still performed by those of Christian and pagan beliefs alike during the holidays.
Well, now we have to go get a Yule log.
Exactly. Interestingly enough, there's also a dessert.
I've heard of the dessert.
Yeah.
I have no desire to try the dessert.
Yeah, sounds interesting. It's similar to a Swiss roll.
That's why I don't want it.
Exactly. Too much chocolate. Made of a soft sponge cake and believed to have originated in France around the 19th century and is known as bûche de Noël. The cake is shaped, decorated, and frosted to resemble a Yule log. From the original tradition, the cake is usually consisted with yellow sponge cake, chocolate buttercream in a spiral fashion, though many variants of the traditional recipe are used today. The frosting is often scraped to give a bark-like texture to resemble the original Yule practice, and while the edible treat originated in France, it quickly spread to other nations as the burning of the Yule log tradition began to lose public interest. Now, both traditions in modern day are still held, and families take part in either one or both of the traditions during the holidays. For families without a fireplace, modern technology has provided alternatives. The burning of the Yule log has been replaced in most homes by TV broadcasts or digital recording of the Yule log burning in a holiday-themed fireplace. This modern tradition began in 1966 when the New York City television station WPIX aired a multiple-hour-long television showing titled The Yule Log. This show is simply a recorded film loop of the Yule log burning in a fireplace while Christmas music plays softly in the background.
I mean, we could certainly do that, but that seems kind of
silly.
That wasn't the word I was going to go for, but it will work.
Now, the next piece that we're going to discuss, this is where Hanukkah comes in. Hanukkah was a 8-day Jewish celebration known as the rededication during the 2nd century BC of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, where, according to legend, Jews had risen up against the Greek-Syrian oppressors in the Maccabean revolts. Now, Hanukkah, which means dedication in Hebrew, begins on the 25th of Kislev on the Hebrew calendar and usually falls in November or December. Hanukkah 22 begins in the evening of Sunday, December the 18th, and ends on the evening of Monday, December the 26th. Often called the Festival of Lights, this holiday is celebrated with the lighting of the menorah, traditional foods, games, and gifts. Now, the events that inspired Hanukkah holiday took place during a particularly turbulent phase of Jewish history. History, folks! Get your notebooks out.
What?
Around 200 BC, Judea, also known as the Land of Israel, came under control of Antiochus III, the Seleucid king of Syria, who allowed the Jews to live there to continue practicing their religion. His son, the fourth, Epiphanes, proved less benevolent. Ancient sources recount that he outlawed the Jewish religion and ordered the Jews to worship Greek gods. In 168 BC, his soldiers descended upon Jerusalem, massacring thousands of people and desecrating the city's holy Second Temple by erecting an altar to Zeus and sacrificing pigs within its sacred walls. That's going to tick a lot of people off. Now, led by the Jewish priest Mattathias and his 5 sons, a large-scale rebellion broke out against Antiochus and the Seleucid monarchy. When Mattathias died in 166 BC, his son Judah, known as Judas Maccabee, the Hammer, took the helm. Within 2 years, the Jews had successfully driven the Syrians out of Jerusalem, relying largely on guerrilla warfare tactics. Judah called on his followers to cleanse the Second Temple, rebuild its altar, and light its menorah, the golden candelabrum with 7 branches representing knowledge and creation, and were meant to be kept burning every night. Now, the miracle, as it's known, according to the Talmud, one of Judaism's most central texts, Judah Maccabee and the other Jews who took part in the rededication of the Second Temple witnessed what they believed was a miracle. Even though there was only enough oil, untainted, to keep the menorah's candles burning for a single day, the flames continued flickering for 8 nights, leaving them time to find a fresh supply. This wondrous event inspired the Jewish sages to proclaim a yearly 8-day festival. The first book of the Maccabees tells another version of the story, describing an 8-day celebration that followed the rededication, but making no reference to the miracle of the oil. Other interpretations of the story, some modern, offer a radically different interpretation of the Hanukkah tale. In their view, Jerusalem, under Antiochus IV, had erupted into civil war between two camps of Jews, those who assimilated into the dominant culture that surrounded them, adopting Greek and Syrian customs, and those who were determined to impose Jewish laws and traditions even by force. The traditionalists won out in the end, with the Hasmonean dynasty, led by Judah Maccabee's brother and his descendants, wresting control of the land of Israel from the Seleucids and maintaining an independent Jewish kingdom for more than a century. Jewish scholars have also suggested that the first Hanukkah might have been a belated celebration of Sukkot, which the Jews had not had a chance to observe during the Maccabean revolt. One of the Jewish religion's most important holidays, Sukkot consists of 7 days of feasting, prayer, and festivities. Now, the Hanukkah celebration revolves around the kindling of the 9-branched menorah, known in Hebrew as the Hanukkah. On each of the holiday's 8 nights, another candle is added to the menorah after sundown. The 9th candle, called the shamash, or helper, is used to light the others. Jews typically recite blessings during the ritual and display the menorah prominently in a window as a reminder of the others that the miracle that inspired the holiday. In another allusion to the Hanukkah miracle, traditional Hanukkah foods are fried in oil. Potato pancakes, known as latkes, and jam-filled donuts are particularly popular in many Jewish households. Other Hanukkah customs include playing with the four-sided spinning tops called dreidels and exchanging gifts. In recent decades, particularly in North America, Hanukkah has exploded into a major commercial phenomenon, largely because it falls on or overlaps with Christmas. From a religious perspective, however, it remains a relatively minor holiday that places no restrictions on working, attending school, or other activities. Also locally, in our town square, there is a menorah that is set up and has ties to our Air Force Base, interestingly enough. And one of the more, I wouldn't exactly call them powerful, but influential families in the town, Adelstein, helped get it erected by the square down there by the ice skating rink. And I'm not sure if they light it every night or how they have their schedule set up for it. I also know they have a ram's horn that they use for the dedication every year too. So, now, from those 2 points, the two sides that we also hear a lot about is the religious side of Christmas and the religions that take part in this month. And then there's also the commercial aspect. And everybody knows about Charlie Brown and the Christmas special and the fact that, a lot of places, this is their big time for marketing. It all starts the day after Thanksgiving. You've got Black Friday. People go out and just, go crazy in the stores. They have people tackling each other to get dolls. All sorts of weird stuff happens.
It hasn't been that bad the last few years.
Thankfully. But at the same time, it's, there's sometimes when you wonder, if people are starting to forget the main reason for the season. And
I think that depends on the people.
Yeah.
Because some people will keep it because they believe, and other people will lose it because they're not as strongly attached.
Right.
Whether their religion is, Christian or Muslim or whatever.
Yeah.
When you don't have a strong connection, you're going to lose that connection.
Right. And so, for a lot of people, it all depends on, where your point of view is. I'll say I came from a pretty strong background in the Free Methodist faith. We believed in Jesus being born on the 25th. I will say that it doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that he was born on the 25th. There's been much speculation that he might have been born somewhere during the spring. And likewise, Angel, she does a lot of work on the history side of things regarding the pagan rites and the information there, which to me it was not only interesting, but it was also kind of informative because, the way that the Christian church was looking at it originally was that, well, they both revolve around a son. Theirs was the deity regarding the son, and Jesus was the Son of God.
So, kind of.
Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of people look at the, Santa Claus, and again, he was a religious figure. He did exist. He wasn't a myth in somebody's storyline. Granted, I'm pretty sure he didn't fly a sleigh with reindeer, because no matter how hard you try to fly, it probably wouldn't work very well.
Are you telling me the China reindeer are not real? Angel would be very sad.
Well, even Rudolph, unless he was drunk, wouldn't have a red nose.
Angel's going to be very sad about this.
Probably. But at the same time, the big thing to look at is that it is the season of miracles. So, if you truly believe in things, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. But
to me, it's always been like, even no matter what your religion is, it was a season to remember to give to others, and to be generous and to be jolly and to just celebrate the whole year.
Yeah. And see, that was some of the nice things about, some of the European traditions. When those people came to America, they brought those traditions with them. The gift giving. Germanic tribes would take care of stuff like that. Like we saw with the use of evergreen trees here in the Black Hills, we still have people that go up into the hills and cut a fresh tree down so that they can put it up in their house. Granted, nowadays we see a lot more of the artificial trees because, well, they don't dry out and catch on fire as easily. But at the same time, it's these traditions that have grown over the last, let's see, seven decades. And as the time goes on, these will be traditions that people will be able to pass on down to their kids. Yeah,
and see, that's another thing that I think, for me at least, when it comes to holidays, it's a time for traditions, whether it's a new tradition because you're starting a new family, or old traditions because you want to carry on something that was special to you as a kid. This time of year is the best time for traditions. It's not the only time.
Yeah. Now, as a last treat, I will share this story because it was an awesome time when I was younger. I actually got to don the suit and wear the beard. Okay, I was a lot younger, but I did it up at our mall. And what was really kind of cool is I had to take the bus because my car had a problem. And on the way up to the bus and to the mall, there was a special needs girl. And I asked her, "Are you going to go see Santa?" And she's like, "Yeah." Eyes got really big. And so I, went in, got in through the back, got dressed up, went out, and got on the sleigh. And sure enough, less than 30 minutes later, in comes this girl, and they sat her on my lap. And so I asked her, "I bet you came on a bus to see me." And her eyes got wide, and she got this big old smile on her face. And it was a neat experience. That was the one year that really stuck out in my mind. And of course, then I also got to take and work the theoretics of that. Could you actually make a sleigh go around the planet that fast and hit that many houses in one night?
All you need is a love magic.
Ernest had it perfectly solved.
Exactly.
the planet rotation versus the apex, getting the slingshot effect going, making a stop at maybe 3 seconds a house, stopping time so you could get in there, flip the place, put down the presents, and pop back out. You could do it. Yes, this is the bearded one for the Bud Files. Santa Claus is real. You folks have a good evening and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! Although we will be back with more videos.